title Sacrifice came about because I felt that anytime you're a creative person and what you do for a living is to create, and then your creations become judged upon your creations by the consumer or whoever. And I felt like I'd been doing this for such a long time, and I knew I didn't want to wake up and make the same record every morning, every day, and I felt like I was sacrificing myself for my art, which is, I'm sacrificing what people perceive to be the Quentin Harris sound as for my next evolution.
And the previous album was called No Politics.
No Politics. There's always a message with me.
And then you took what, 2 years? A 2-year gap?
Actually, almost 3.
A 3-year gap. So No Politics, what was that about, and why the 3-year gap?
Why the 3-year gap? Just musical burnout. I was a machine. I mean, every machine has to be oiled. Also, there was writer's block. I got tired of waking up and making records that sounded like my joy. I was like, enough. I need to take a break and stop and just clear my head.
So would you say that was the perceived sound that you became synonymous with?
Yes. That was the perceived sound.
Hence the sacrifice?
Yes.
And are you happy with where you are right now?
I'm very, very happy. Because what I don't think a lot of people understand, that a lot of times as artists or producers or what have you, we live with these records long before the consumer has heard them.
Yeah.
So I was just telling Steve a second ago about one of the songs that's on my new album called "Give It to You," which is featuring Ultra Tay.
Yeah.
Someone told me, "Oh, this record sounds so different than what we've heard from you in the past." I said, "Well, it's really not different. If you go to the studio and open up the file, it timestamps, and I had that song completed in 2007, when My Joy and all that stuff was still at its peak. I was just so on to the next thing so quickly, and that becomes a problem in the music industry because you can alienate your fan base when you try to do something different. But also it can be risky because you're also, on the other hand, it can be, okay, once they get tired of that sound and you're still doing that sound, they moved on to the next thing.
Exactly. You need to move before they move.
Exactly.
Now, let's go back to the beginning. Where were you born and raised from?
I was born and raised in Motortown.
Oh. Yeah.
I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, the home of Motown, techno cars, and all other types of crazy artists and performers come out of Michigan.
So, who were the big crazy artists when you were growing up that you were listening to?
Oh boy, I was listening to Juan Atkins and Derek May.
Derek May, yeah. I had
a friend of mine.
I had a Derek May tape.
Yeah.
Get out of here. Can I give you my tape?
Yeah.
Have him sign it and send it back
sure
to me?
can.
Thank you very much.
I can do that for you. I was, at the time when I was growing up also, the radio, what I was hearing on radio was, I was hearing Madonna, who's from Michigan.
Yeah.
I was hearing Prince, and I was hearing what my parents were listening to in my household, which was a lot of jazz, a lot of UMass Kayla, a lot of Miriam Makeba, a lot of Rare Earth, a lot of Forrest Silver, Dave Brubeck, Motown stuff with Marvin Gaye, The Temptations. So I was surrounded by a lot of different kinds of music. So
you were raised by music.
Yeah, so I think that's why my musical palette, so to speak, is so, I guess, diverse.
Yeah.
Because I was exposed to those different kinds of music, because I learned at an early age that it was all connected.
Sure. What is your headspace, though, in terms of what you want to be when you grow up at that stage?
What do I want to be when I grow up now?
Yeah. Well, back then.
Back then, I always knew that I wanted to do something involved in music. I didn't, whether it be early on, I wanted to be on stage.
Yeah.
I had a group, and we were signed to a label when I was
You're
like,
part of a hip hop group.
Yeah, I was part of a hip hop group called the Masterminds.
Yeah,
Before that, I was part of a before it became the hip hop R&B thing like Bell Biv DeVoe and stuff like that. I was a part of a group that was like that.
So you in a boy band?
Well, when we're black, we don't call it boy band.
So what do we do?
Do you call the Temptations a boy band?
We're a man band.
I was a part of a group. I was the producer of the group at like 14, and I was always experimenting. I like putting two worlds. I like colliding worlds.
Yeah,
so I was putting this hip hop stuff that I was progressively falling more and more in love with my classical upbringing because I play classical music, and
Where does that stem from?
it stems from I've been playing instruments since I was 5 years old.
Well, self-taught, or your
I
dad
was-
said, "There's a piano, go play.
No,
Here's
no.
a tambourine, go beat on this."
No. I recommend that no parent try to force their child to play an instrument because
Yeah.
they will probably hate you and hate that instrument. But me,
So what
I
instrument do you hate?
I don't hate any instrument.
Okay.
I don't-
Just checking.
So what did you pick up and say, "This is what I want to play first"?
The first instrument I picked up when I was 5 was piano. My
Yeah.
grandmother had a piano. She played in church, and she initially bought the piano for my sister, and my sister didn't want to have anything to do with it because she was trying to force her to play the piano.
Yeah.
And I wanted to learn, but my grandmother just really, I guess because of my age, she didn't want to take the time to
Yeah.
like try. So I taught myself.
So you mentioned R&B, you mentioned classical, you were into the hip hop thing. Why house music?
It's so funny how I ended up in house music. When I moved from Detroit to New York around the late 90s, I was in a group called the Masterminds, which was a hip hop group, and I was producing for them, and they decided to go on tour, and they asked me, "Oh, do you DJ?" I said, "Yes." So they said, "You want to go on tour?" So I went on tour. I was like, "Here's my out of Michigan," because I knew
Yeah.
I always wanted to live in New York, and so I went on tour with them. And while I was doing that, I was still making hip hop, trying to break into this hip hop and R&B world. I knew just about everybody, but nobody was giving me,
The
paying
break,
attention.
the break,
No one was
yeah.
giving me the break.
Yeah.
And so one day I met this guy by the name of Marvin Howell, who I was just talking about before I got into the studio.
Yeah.
And he managed like all these pop producers, like his name, who produced like Enrique Iglesias and Faith Hill. And he started doing what A&Rs, or what people do, called assessing your talent. So
Right.
he started giving me these projects to work on, which I thought were really like, ugh. I didn't think, but I was extremely hungry at the time. And
Yeah.
I knew that working on any kind of music and being involved with it was either going to take me somewhere, or I was going to learn something from it because it was a form of practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the first project I worked on that actually came out on a major label was a remix of, at that time, she was making her first English-speaking album, that was Shakira.
Nice.
Whenever, Wherever.
Yeah.
I remixed that song. That was the first major label.
Would you
remix
say that was your big toe in through the door?
No.
No.
No, that was not my big toe in the door. What happened after that, the same guy, Marvin Howell, gave me a CD, and it had all these acapellas on it, and it was this. They wanted me to do this remix for this little kid. It was Motown acapellas, and I was
Yeah.
like, here they go again, trying to recreate the Jackson 5. It ain't gonna happen again.
Yeah.
So I don't even remember the kid's name. So I did the mix of the record. They never put it out. But I started listening to the other acapellas on the CD, and there was like a ton of indie R&B acapellas on the CD,
Yeah.
which I love. And at that time, I was no longer in the Masterminds, the hip hop group, and I was working a full-time job at Satellite Records in New York City. And I was notoriously late. I'm known for being notoriously late.
What glad
It's
you
one
made
of-
you made it on time.
It's
today.
one of
Thanks.
my flaws that I try to work on.
Yeah.
So I would arrive late to work because I would wake up in the morning and just start working on music, and then I would look at the clock. Oh, I'm supposed to be at work, and I would rush out.
Yeah.
So one day, I had this acapella from her called "Ready for Love," and I'd always try to figure out what to do with it. I couldn't figure out how I wanted the song to sound. Till one day, it hit me, and I was 3 hours late for work. I finished the song in 3 hours.
Wow.
And I was, as I said, 3 hours late for work. And I get to work, I do my job, and I let, at that time, a gentleman by the name of Ben Johnson hear it. And he gave it to Timmy Regisford at Shelter. And I guess the rest you can say is history.
Wow.
So Timmy
Broke the record.
heard you out.
He didn't hear me play. He heard that.
Oh,
that,
he heard the record and he
heard that
spun it.
remix, and he came.
All right.
He told Ben, he's like, "Oh, there's a dropout in the record. Can he take the dropout out of the record?" I said, "Sure."
That sounds exactly like something Timmy would say.
So I changed it, and then I gave it to him, and he started playing it at the club.
Yeah.
But the record that really started all of this for me was I was still doing the stuff with Timmy, and
Yeah.
he said, "Oh, I got my hands on a Cloud 9, Donnie.
Yeah.
And that was the record that really changed everything for me.
Do you get along with Timmy? Because I don't know many guys that get along with Timmy.
I get along with Timmy. Our relationship started off as, you know, I used to go to Shelter before I even met him, and I just loved the music.
You were just a house head partying, yeah.
So, which brings the very next question, which is when did you start DJing then?
I started DJing when I was 13.
Remember what year that was?
What year that was?
Yeah. Roughly.
Roughly early 80s.
So you're gonna play us the first record you ever bought, right?
I hope so.
Yeah, we hope he is.
I'll tell you in a minute. So.
All right, but yeah, what was the first record that you ever bought?
The first record I ever bought was Funkadelic. One Nation Under a Groove was the first record I ever bought. And I think it's on this one.
So what? You walk into a record store and I mean, there's all these other records. Why did you buy that record first?
Because I loved all things funky.
Yeah.
And I was hearing those songs on the radio. I used to go roller skating all the time, and they would play it. And my father and people in my family knew during holidays and Christmas and stuff like that, they knew to buy me records or electronics.
What were your peers up to?
What were my peers up to around that time? I don't know what they were doing. They were playing
Rubik's Cube.
They were playing with Legos or other stuff like that. They were doing something. But I was raised around a lot of people, a lot of older people. So if it's not that one, it's this one.
All right. Quentin Harris is in the building. Questions and comments are most welcome. Email fresh@5fm.co.za or euphonic@5fm.co.za.
I'll answer any question.
Exactly. First record he ever bought coming up next. You know what number? Make It Funky.
Yes.
Psychedelic on 5FM. This is Quentin Harris's first ever record that he bought.
Yeah.
Now, I always tell people that one of the reasons I'm such a big fan of what you do is the fact that even in house music, you make it about the music, not just about the doof, 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 doof.
Well, the reason why I do that is I think it's because I think house is just a term.
Yeah.
Just like the term garage. It's a term. It's just a term. House, to give the listeners, our young listeners, a history lesson. The term house came from a club in Chicago, which the resident DJ of that club was Frankie Knuckles. Frankie Knuckles was from Chicago. Frankie Knuckles was good friends with Larry Levan. Frankie went to Chicago. Larry stayed in New York and was the resident of the Paradise Garage. So when people would go to the warehouse and they would hear the records that Frankie was playing, they would leave the club and go to a record store. We say, we want some of the house music. They just shortened it.
Yeah.
So it was whatever Frankie was playing there. So house music could be Diana Ross. House music could be the Talking Heads. House music could be Rob Bass and Easy Rock. It was whatever was played in that club.
On that night.
Or just anything that was played in the club.
Sure.
Doesn't it sort of like make you angry or upset you that people have made house and split it up into so many different genres, like tech house?
It drives me insane, especially in this particular day and age, because you can take a record like Arms Reg, right? Mm-hmm. You can take that record. Some people will say that's techno. Some people will say that's tech house.
Yeah.
Some people will say that's house. Me, I kind of say it's dance music, because dance music is a broad statement, because dance music is basically anything you can dance to. So
in your mind, then, where do we draw the line? Where does house stop and dance music start?
Dance music tends to start when, I want to say dance music tends to start when it becomes very popular, if it becomes commercial, I think.
Okay.
House is always going to be considered like an underground thing, but, it's really tricky. That's why I try to not live. I think that's why I don't like labels that much. When you're as far as music is concerned, there's classical, jazz, rock, country, and pop and soul.
That's it.
I mean, and then you have in Latin, you have your world music. But when you start saying that, this record is not a house record and that record is not a house record, well, some of the slowest records. E2, E4.
Yeah.
by Manuel. That was considered a garage record, which was played in the garage. But some people today would say, wow, that's really slow, and that sounds like a techie record.
Sure.
Okay.
Or,
Now, just going back to your album title,
Mhm.
Sacrifice. You said after No Politics or around the No Politics stage of your life, like you were a machine, and that you definitely were, because every single week, every single month, there was numerous Quentin Harris records coming out, be it a remix, original production, or you featuring you on somebody else's track. At that time, do you think you were making music that you knew people were gonna like, or were you still like keeping it real to what you are?
I do not do. I would say there's only been in my entire career of making music 2 or 3 songs I've ever done that I did not want to do, and I did them.
Why?
I do everything I do because I genuinely like doing it.
Sure.
So why would you like? I mean, at that time, like every Quentin Harris record that was coming out was. I'll speak for South Africa. All of them were getting major play. Was that something that was purposely done, or was it?
No, it's like I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. He's like,
And I mean, like, also, why were you flooding the market with so much music? Because that's what it looked like.
well,
Or you're just a guy hard at work.
I was a guy hard at work.
Yeah.
I mean, I was constantly making music, and it was making those records to me was a form of practice. Either they were going to sit in my house and no one was going to hear them, or either people were going to get a chance to hear them. It was a lot of the things that I did, as far as especially in that particular time period, came out of maybe also in the back of my mind is a necessity to fill a void that I knew that wasn't there. Like especially with major label remixes. What it kind of frustrated me on 2 levels. It was out of my frustration actually, because on 2 levels there had become. You would hear these dance mixes of like say Mariah Carey or what have you, whatever pop artist, but it would all have this specific sound, and to me in my eyes the song was being bastardized, not the melody, the song. It's like you would never hear the story that person was trying to convey and try to get across.
In fact, on that note, what's your favorite remix of all time?
My favorite remix of all time is Mariah Carey, Fantasy by my man Dave Morales.
What is it about this remix that makes it stand out?
We don't have enough time to play this entire remix. It's 10 minutes long. But it reminds me of classical music. It goes in pieces. It starts one way, then it changes to something else. The tempo slows down in the middle of the record, then it goes back up to this high energy thing, and then goes into this beautiful Latin percussion thing. It's amazing.
All right.
It's amazing.
You guys are only doing this shit now.
Yeah.
Okay, well now, Mariah Carey on 5FM. This is the Dave Morales remix.
Death mix.
Wow.
Now, this is Quentin Harris's favorite remix of all time. Now, Dave Morales was doing transitions like 100 years before anyone else was doing them.
Yeah.
You know what I noticed about you though? You love your music. I mean, you've been losing it to this track that you've heard 100 times already, and you're still losing it.
Yeah. It's like hearing it for the first time.
Let's go back to Cloud9. So Cloud9 blows up, and
Yeah, Timmy played it 12 times in one night.
Wow.
Not even Mosquito can beat that.
And your name is all of a sudden, I guess, on people's tongues.
Yeah, yeah.
What did that do for your career? I mean,
to go back to the whole hip hop thing.
Yeah.
When Timmy played that record 12 times in a night, the next thing that happened was this DJ, who I just knew him as a DJ, his name was Sting International, came up to me at this party in Brooklyn, and he was playing Cloud9. And he said, and he knew that it was me. And he said, well, who played the keyboards on the record? And I said, I did. He said, well, I'm putting the finishing touches on Shaggy's album.
Yeah.
You want to come into the studio with me and Shaggy and put some stuff down on Shaggy?
Yeah.
So I ended up going to the studio with Shaggy, and I ended up producing 2 songs on his Close Drop album, which came out in 2008.
Yeah.
So it was like full circle. So how I got into house was almost like crazy. It was like it wasn't meant to be, but it was music, so I didn't care. I could have been doing jazz. It didn't matter. It just made me happy.
Yeah, yeah. Now, Euphonic was asking you off air about your production style.
Yeah.
Is there a Quentin Harris production style?
At first, I did not think I had a style.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I started hearing it, other people do it. Things that I know that I specifically do.
Oh, like this guy's trying to sound like me right there,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
So what would you say, in your personal opinion, other producers are doing wrong?
I wouldn't say that other producers are doing anything wrong, because there's no right or wrong way to make music. I would just say probably from my own personal taste,
Yeah.
is that if you're doing a remix of someone's song, unless they're specifically asking you for a dub, I don't like to break up the structure of how the song is written. So it's very rare you will hear me take the chorus or the hook and let you hear snippets of it before the first verse, because there's a story. It's like you don't read a book and go straight to the middle and then go back to the front and read it.
Yeah.
You start from the beginning and you go to the end. So that's one thing that I always did, and I didn't believe it was necessary to have like 2.5 minutes of mindless beats before you hear the first vocal. I think it's like, what do you need all that for? Get to the point.
Which goes back to your musical background, I
Yeah.
guess, and upbringing.
Yeah, because records back in the day that were being played in clubs, you didn't have that. So I approach records. I will also say my specific style is, especially working with vocals, I like the vocal to be heard. So I always suppress myself and make a groove that's hypnotic, that locks people in, so people can listen and pay attention to that message. There have been many times I've been playing records.
You want to repeat that again?
Yeah, just repeat that again. Slowly this time.
Get your pens out, guys.
I tend to create a hypnotic groove.
Yeah.
Like, say, for instance,
Because
There was a hypnotic
you're
groove.
good at that, though. That's what I hate about you. I mean, you hook us the minute the track starts.
But the reason why I do that is because I like the element of surprise.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that I've been places, I won't never play a Christina Aguilera record. I will never play Britney Spears. So I like to trick them.
you'll make them play it.
I'll make them, because it's like, I'll lock you in with this groove that you can't deny this groove, and then all of a sudden you start hearing, there's only two types of people. Like, wait a minute, I'm on the floor dancing to Britney Spears. I never would have thought it.
Yeah.
And I've heard people actually on posts and on message boards say that about records that I've done.
Yeah.
Like, they would never imagine themselves dancing to these records.
So what's your definition of a hypnotic groove, and how does one go about making a groove that is hypnotic? Is there some trick to it, or?
I would keep it simple, stupid. That's what somebody told me a long time ago.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
have to keep it simple. Try not to overthink. I'll give you a perfect example. The last time I was here and I played, right before I went on, there was this record that was being played, and it was so hypnotic that the minute I got on and the DJ was playing before me, I said, what was that?
Yeah.
I must have it now, because it was so hypnotic. And it was a Cool de Song record. He does really hypnotic grooves. It's like you're in a trance when you're hearing it. It's like you can't, and that's it.
So would you say he's your favorite South African producer?
Yes,
Would you work with him?
yes, in a heartbeat.
Should we call him now?
Yes, yes.
Oh, right there.
Also, another question I want to
He
ask.
should be on speed dial, right?
No, he is. He's on 2.
Another question I want to ask you is, let's say I am already producing. How do I go about making myself a better producer?
Keep producing.
Okay.
The answer is really simple. How I became doing what I was doing was because I would go and find acapellas. I would just work on everything. Like me being a machine, I did 150 records, but there's stuff that never came out. So you can imagine what didn't come out. So,
But at that time, were you also listening to a lot of what other people were doing?
no.
Just doing you?
The only time I was listening to what other people were doing was when I would go out to the club and dance. That's when I would hear it. But I just had tunnel vision, and it was like, this is how I make music, and this is how I make it.
Were there any disadvantages to that tunnel vision?
No, I don't have any regrets.
Yeah.
No.
All right. Quentin Harris's favorite South African producer, Ulo the Song. 2336. Thanks for joining us, 5FM Power Nights, every Wednesday between 10 and midnight.
Oh yeah.
You want it.
open with a song Webaba featuring Busim Tongo, one of our... Okay. Before I was rudely interrupted. It's a hypnotic tune that Quentin Harris digs. It's one of his favorite SA producers.
You dropped this in Italy. What happened?
The Italians lost their mind.
Yeah. You're losing your mind still listening to this tune.
Hey, every song I hear, I can remember the first moment I heard it, and exactly where I was at when I heard it. Those are the records that every record has a story behind it.
Yeah.
What do you like and hate about this scene at the moment?
What do I like? I like that now technology has made it accessible for people to make music that normally wouldn't have the ability to make music. What I hate about it is technology has been made accessible to people who make music that shouldn't be making music.
Now, talking of making music, I mean, you make a ton of tracks, and some are official, some are not. Do you get into trouble for that?
Let's see, if this was like in the 90s maybe, I would be getting big trouble. But now the record labels, back when I started doing this, is like I said, I created a void.
Yeah.
There was a void for the kind of mixes that I was doing.
Sure.
And so I filled that void. So I would go into a label and someone would say, well, only so-and-so, I want to remix this Maroon 5 record. They would say, well, only so-and-so's remixing this record. And I was like, okay.
Really? Is that what you think? Okay, watch me.
So I would get my hands on the acapella and I would do the record and mix it, then I would put it out. And they saw it as free promotion, because they didn't view, first of all, the majors viewed the dance music as a trivial music that doesn't make money and it's disposable because it's faceless, because it's DJ driven. That's another thing I don't like about this industry.
Sure.
That it's more DJ driven than artist driven.
They know nothing about South Africa, clearly.
So I was just like, basically what happened was the same people, and I loved it because I was back in those same offices of those people that told me no, with them saying, can you please remix Mariah Carey's record? Can you please remix Justin Timberlake's record?
Yeah.
The same people that told me no. So I started from an underground perspective, whatever that means. I was eating away at anything that's popular at once was unknown. And it goes to music too. It's like when people want to hear you play as a DJ, they go, "Oh, can you play this record?" And you're like, "Oh, I gotta play this record again."
Yeah.
But at one point, those records were unknown to you. So, you gotta find that balance and that common ground.
Well, didn't you think you were selling your soul? I mean, like when you start doing stuff for like Mariah Carey, that's like big commercial artists.
Yeah.
And I mean, like you associating your name with big commercial artists, you didn't think that was gonna, I don't know.
You think I was
Kill
selling
your
out?
cred. Kill your cred. Yeah.
No, because when Dave Morales was doing it,
It was okay.
it was okay. So why now should it not be okay for me? Because I have people follow me on Facebook. I had a comment about that, so somebody was like, well, if a select few people know what this is, that means it's underground, that means it's good. And if everybody else likes it, that means it's pop, and it's commercial, that means it's no good. Well, then Stevie Wonder sucks.
In fact, I was going to say, doesn't politics like that piss you off? Because
Yes, it does.
all you want to do is play records.
Yeah, all I want to do is play a record. A lot of people sometimes in our scene get this elitist mentality about music when all music is related and it all comes from the same place.
You know what upsets me the most is that the people that bring politics to DJing a lot of the time are actually not DJs.
And have nothing to do with it.
Well, you know what they say about opinions.
Tell us.
There are children listening.
Yeah.
Quentin, what production tools do you use?
I use as a digital audio workstation platform. I use Logic, but I also still use a lot of hardware.
So you've got a rack of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like I can be walking down the street, I can have my iPhone and I'll hear a sound and I'll just record the sound and take it back and sample them. I like to make a lot of my own sounds and things like that.
Okay, so nothing is safe from you. A dripping tap
No.
could be your next hit.
No, another producer that's like that is Timberland. Timberland will like beat on a wall and make a kick out of it.
Yeah.
I learned that sound is everywhere from JD, also known as Jay Dilla from Slum Village. I know those guys, and I was in the studio with him one time and he needed a bass sound. So he unhooked the ground wire from the turntable and sampled the feedback and filtered it down and made a syntone bass. And I said, "You are crazy." I said, "But I get it now. Sound and what you need. If you hear it in your head, you have to try to get it out of your head
And make it into music.
Yeah.
So what song made you cry?
What song made me cry? This particular song. It's a remix I did in my hotel room in Japan, like last New Year's 2009. It's Mary J. Blige, "Fade Away," and at that particular time, it's when I still was trying to figure out what my next album was going to sound like, and I just felt like, okay, people want me to still do this, and I just have other problems in my life. And she sings in the song, "Sometimes I wish that I could stand here and fade away, so no one can see the tears running down my face." I played this song 7 times in Japan, and every time I was playing, I was crying, I was bawling, and people were like, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, "Because I was feeling every word that she was saying."
Yeah, you're in the zone.
Yeah.
Why the hell not? Quentin Harris in the building. It's fucking hot and midnight. We're hanging out with Quentin Harris, and this is the track that made Quentin cry. So
Always makes me cry.
So you're in Japan and you're all emotional.
Yeah.
Would you say after that stage you kind of knew where you were going with your direction music-wise?
I still didn't know. I still didn't know. I was explaining to the gentleman here that I knew what I wanted to do, but I felt my style had pigeonholed me.
Yeah, that's all people wanted to hear from you almost.
And so I had been working on an album with Alternate. And that album was completed before I even did Sacrifice.
Yeah.
Actually, Give It To You was a part of that album with Ultra. And that was pretty much the basis of the album was done in 2007. So I still was like trying to figure out what I wanted to do.
In fact, before I ask you about Ultra, what's this track playing? Someone's asking right now.
This track is one of my vocal muses, Mary J. Blige, "Fade Away."
All right, man. We'll be taking your calls on 089 1100505 if you've got any questions for Quentin. And then what are you doing in the country, bruh?
What am I doing in the country? I'm here to promote this album, brand new album, My Sacrifice. I'm also playing the 60s Party.
In Nelspruit, yeah.
Yes, with my good friend Frank Roger, who I did a record with that's going to come out real soon.
Tomorrow.
I know I'm playing somewhere else, but
You're at House 22 tomorrow.
Yes, House 22 tomorrow. I'm a little jet lagged. You gotta forgive me.
Now we understand. Now, you and Alternate have a band.
Yes.
Tell us about this band.
The band is called Black Stereo Faith. And it's basically exploring all the different sides of dance music that you don't hear. More like, say, like Missing by the Rolling Stones or Talking Heads, that kind of a vibe. I'm on keyboards. We have a guitarist, a drummer, and one of the songs on my album, "Give It To You," with the 20-piece string arrangement that I did, is a part of that. It's a part of that album also. So it's like I'm trying to tie everything in.
All right.
I guess I'm getting people ready for the next sound, so to speak.
All right, take a call for Quentin Harris. Hi. Good man. What's a question or comment? Yeah, do you have any other South African producers that you're loving right now?
Mr. Black Coffee.
Yeah.
Mr. Black Coffee. And it's so funny, I was telling you, I didn't know he was from South Africa. I've been playing his records and didn't know he was from South Africa until like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute. I said, I've been here all this time and didn't know.
Yeah.
Because normally, like the first 2 times I came here, like when I go places, I want people to give me music I absorb and immerse myself in the culture and the music of the places that I go.
Yeah.
And I just had no idea. I was like, oh, well, I'm pretty sure because he gave me a CD at the Winter Music Conference like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And with Even Though and those songs were on it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really good. And I've been playing his music ever since.
Nice. Hi.
Yeah, what's happening,
What's your
bro?
question, buddy?
Am I gonna move to electro?
No, laptop. Do you play off CD? Are you digital? What's going on?
I play off all tools. Currently, so it depends on where I'm at. Like sometimes I may use Tractor, sometimes I might use CDs. I don't use vinyl when I travel. I use it when I'm at home.
Yeah.
Because for obvious reasons, it's
heavy.
just heavy to be lugging that around.
Okay, so you're a Tractor guy. Why did you go with Tractor as opposed to for argument's sake, Serato. Yeah.
Because I use Native Instruments plugins with Logic, and I'm a effect nut.
So you want to go to town when you're playing?
Yeah, I like to take records that you've heard a million times and deliver them to you in a different way.
Right.
And to clear things up, I only use Tractor. It's like having my entire record collection with me. So if you hear me mixing on Tractor, you'll hear some beat matching issues because I'm not using it to beat match.
You're using it as a record box.
This is my record box.
Yeah. All right.
Then I don't have to carry all that stuff with me. It's heavy.
Quick question for Quinton 5. Hi. Yeah, what's up, man? Yeah.
Oh, why did I turn down the Alicia Keys No One remix?
Yeah.
Because not every song needs the treatment. And what I mean
What you felt you couldn't make it better?
I felt like what I wanted to do with it, the label didn't want me to do with it. And what I wanted to do with it was to give the song a reggae feel.
Sure.
And they were like, no, we want a dance mix. And I was like, okay, well, I'm sorry. I'm not going to do it. Because that song to me doesn't translate well on a dance floor. Then, later that year, I hear a reggae version of it. Somebody did it, and it sounded perfect. It sounded like No Woman, No Cry.
Yeah,
it's because I always felt the original version, the backing music wasn't fitting the melody.
It should have been a reggae song.
So what's your intention every time you remix something?
My intention when I try to remix something is to try to make you forget what the original sounds like. It's difficult, but there has been.
Yeah.
I would say there's one record in dance music history that was a remix that people do not know what the original sounds like, and that's the Nightcrawlers' "Push the Feeling."
That's true.
Yeah. Can you tell me what the original sounds like?
I don't remember. It was on the flip side of the record, right?
Yeah, it was a Northern Soul record.
Yeah.
And it was like, Brand New Heavies and something like that.
It was. Yeah.
But MK took that record and it's like you don't.
They owned it.
It was like, what's that original sound like?
What's your current number 1 track, bro?
My current number 1 song is like, and it freaks people out when I tell them, but it's Hot and Fun by Nerd featuring Nelly Furtado.
All right.
Wow. It's a hypnotizing bass line, just like he says. Get into the bass line.
NARD on 5FM. This is Quinton Harris's current number 1 tune. What don't you listen to?
Nothing. I listen to everything.
Yeah.
I listen to everything. If someone came to my house or looked into my playlist, they'd be surprised at some of the stuff that's there.
Yeah.
I was just listening to the soundtrack of The Last Emperor 2 days ago.
Are you gonna do a remix, maybe?
I know when to leave well enough alone.
Not to touch. Movie soundtracks, leave them.
So how does one go about getting a hold of you, finding out more info? Are you on Facebook, Twitter?
I'm on
your
Facebook.
website?
I will not tweet, but I will Facebook. That's Facebook, Quinton Harris, and I have a website, quintonharris.com, and all the other pertinent information is on both sites.
We got a message on Twitter from DJ Manuela. It says, you guys can't have Quinton on the show and not play My Joy. We're playing Quinton's 5 songs that he wants to share with us. It's not about My Joy right now, and I'm sure you've heard My Joy more times than you care to even mention, huh?
2004, it's 2010.
Thank you very much. Quinton Harris, we'll see you tomorrow at House 22 in Pretoria.
You can hear My Joy then.
Exactly. And then Nell Sprayed for the 60s party on Saturday.
Yes, I'm so excited.
And then when are you leaving the country?
When am I leaving? Which country? This country?
Yeah.
I think I'm leaving this country the 3rd, the 4th, the 2nd, one of those days. It's all a blur.
When are you moving here?
When am I moving here?
Yeah.
I don't know yet. I'm still not done with New York yet.
Oh yeah, it is a big apple after all.
Yeah. I'm not done with New York yet.
But listen, thank you very much for taking time to join us. We know you're tired. You could have been sleeping.
Big up.
No, I was actually in the hotel working on a song.
Oh, flip. You want to play quickly? No?
No,
Okay.
it's not even done yet.
Just a quick question. What do you travel with when you produce on the road?
The same thing everyone else does.
Just your laptop and nothing else?
I travel with my laptop, a keyboard, and so I can play, and records, music. Well, not physical records, CDs, stuff like that.
All right, cool.
All right, and Quinton Harris is about to leave the building. Thank you once again for joining us. Edition 26 of 5FM Power Nights. We'll be back next week, and we will see you then. Until then, Have a great evening in spite of yourselves.